will call the February 26, 2025 Planning Commission meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is approval of minutes, our January 22nd, 2025 meeting.
Did you want to do roll call first?
Yes, I'm sorry. Please call the roll, Ms. Ramble.
Jay Castile? Jim Jackson?
Here.
Pete McGorry?
Here.
David Miller?
Here.
Steve Pajali?
Here.
Connor Whalen?
Here.
Mike Zuloff?
Here.
Thank you. And before we get to the minutes, I would request that Ms. Blair introduce the new planner to everyone.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'd love to introduce Adam Panis. He joins our team as the assistant planner. He started a couple weeks ago, really hit the ground running. His previous role was very similar at Perkins Township, so we're excited to have him here at the city. I don't know if you want to say hi, Adam.
Hey guys, happy to be here, hope to do well.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to the approval of the January 22nd, 2025 meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move they be approved as distributed.
It's been moved. Is
I'll
it
second that
been
motion.
moved and seconded by Mr. McGorry? Ms. Rambo, could you take the vote, please?
Jim Jackson?
Aye. Yes.
Pete McGorry?
Yes.
Mike Zuloff?
Yes.
Connor Whalen?
Yes.
Steve Pajali?
Yes.
David Miller?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Okay, new business, 1416, 1418 Sagamore Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
So we received an application for a site plan approval at 1416 and 1418 Sagamore Street, parcel 60-00189. This property is currently zoned general manufacturing, and it is surrounded at the north, east, south, and west with general manufacturing zoning. It is a vacant parcel. The proposed use is storage, which is a permitted use in this district. The proposed site plan includes a pole building measuring 32 feet by 40 feet. I'll note that on page 5 of the staff report, it says 4-, that should read 40, 32 by 40 feet by 12 feet. For personal storage, it includes a driveway and utility connections. It will also have an interior bathroom. There is no specific parking requirements for storage in this area. A very strict reading of our code could say that 2 parking spaces are required, which there's ample space in the driveway for 2 vehicles. So all zoning code requirements are met, including the setback requirements and lot coverage. Engineering staff mentioned that the applicant need to provide a drainage plan. They did submit a plan showing that it will have gutters and there's sufficient green space on the site remaining to incorporate the stormwater. And the driveway design will need to conform to the city standards as directed by the city engineer, and that will take place when they pull their permit for the driveway approach. So that would meet all the concerns that we heard, or all the comments that we heard from other staff, and staff recommends the approval of the proposed site plan for 416 and 418 Sagamore Street with the following conditions. All applicable permits are obtained through the building department, engineering department, division of planning, and any other applicable agency prior to construction, and that any exterior light fixtures are dark sky compliant and meet the standards set by city ordinance 24-161.
Thank you, Ms. Blair. Is the applicant here? Is there anything you would like to come up and add to what Ms. Blair has said about the application? Okay. I'll return to the table for any discussion that we'd like to have around the table.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I have a question. On the plan here that I'm looking at here, it really doesn't describe how you're going to use this. Are these going to be small spaces or large spaces for rental? Or is this going to be the whole building is going to be for?
No, it's personal use.
Would you come up and come up here and speak and give us your name and address for the record so we have that?
My name's Eric Kammer. The address in question is 1418 Sagamore Street. Do you want my home address?
And your address, yeah, your own.
It's
personal.
4630 Pinewood Drive, number 228.
Okay.
My question was, are these going to be like small individual spaces for people to rent out?
No, it's one garage for me. I live in a condo and we don't have no storage in that.
Oh, so you're going to be personally
using
using?
it,
Okay,
yes.
okay, I understand. I understand the plan now.
No, this is just for me.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Miller,
Possibly a little picayune in an area of interest, the water flow diagram that I'm seeing. It read the city's comment that there's sufficient grass base to absorb it, and I think, that's absolutely the right thing. I'm wondering if there could be a provision in the site plan for the asphalt driveway that the driveway doesn't drain back into the street, that it crowns so that also can take advantage of the green space for infiltration rather than run off to the city sewer.
Yeah, I'm okay with that as long as I don't flood out the guy to the left of me.
Yeah, I mean, the asphalt, I see what you're saying. That's not a lot of space, but only half has to shed that. And it doesn't even have to have half of it shed that way if you have a lot more space.
Yeah, I could go more to the right.
So, just as long as it doesn't slope to the road, that it goes to permeable surface.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
I would ask Ms. Blair, would we have to run that addition by engineering?
Our code requires that developments take care of their own stormwater, so I would expect that having it sloped towards the ample green space would be an acceptable condition to add to this proposal from Planning Commission.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Zuloff.
I'd make the motion that we approve the application subject to the recommendations on the staff report, and in addition, that the stormwater from the driveway be, if possible, detained on site.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Can I clarifying question, Mr. Zuloff? Do you mean that additional condition to be a recommendation?
Point of order, we should either second it
Yeah,
and then,
perhaps you should second the motion, then we'll call for
Or not.
discussion. Go ahead.
I'll second it.
It's been seconded by Mr. Miller. Discussion?
Clarify, is that a recommendation or a condition?
my words, I believe, were that the stormwater from the driveway be detained on site if possible. All I'm really trying to do is signal the engineering department that, that's what we're asking for, and they're our experts to determine.
Yeah,
Right?
I think
It's their
that-
sandbox anyway, really, so.
fair enough. Sounds more like a recommendation than a requirement.
Just my comment. Mr. Miller, is it a recommendation or a condition?
Well, the stronger, the better.
What was your
Given
intent?
that the applicant is agreeable to it, it doesn't seem like it should be too much of a sticking point, but
Yes.
I am happy for a step in the environmental direction, so I'm not hard over on any particular. I think it could be a requirement, but if a recommendation works better for somebody, I don't care.
All right, thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Ms. Rambo, would you take the roll?
Mike Zuloff,
Yes.
Connor Whalen,
Yes.
Steve Pajali,
Yes.
David Miller,
Yes.
Pete McGorry,
Yes.
Jim Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. The next item is 1215 Campbell Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an application for site plan approval at 1215 Campbell. We've become very familiar with this site over several reviews. We've had a rezoning on the northern parcel. You'll notice that the picture on the screen looks as if it's still public facilities, but that rezoning has been fully moved forward through. So the northern parcel is now zoned multifamily. And then to the south is public facilities, to the west is R2F residential, two-family, and to the east are RB residential business and two-family residential. The proposed site plan includes renovation of the existing parking area, adding a dumpster for the residential building. It also shows where the new utilities are going to be serviced. If you recall, those two buildings, that what was once one building is becoming two buildings with the split of the parcel. And some landscaping will be added at the back of the building where the primary entrance to the residential will be of the historic structure. Zooming in, this also includes an addition to the existing gymnasium and kitchen on the southern building at 1215 Campbell. And that's going to be classroom space, lounge, hallway, and restrooms for the center, who will stay at that space. It's staff's understanding they're not ready to build this quite yet, but they're comfortable with this footprint, so they asked this to be included with the site plan approval that is under review today. So it's essentially a site plan for both of these sites. The entryway stays the same, the parking area stays the same. They're sharing that entry, which is good for the neighborhood. It's not adding any new traffic or entrances or exits to the existing parking. It has ample parking for the number of units that they're proposing, so it meets everything that staff would look for. This is in the central district of the comprehensive plan, and housing, finding opportunities for additional housing and preserving historic structures are both identified as important according to the comprehensive plan. The proposed site plan land uses are permitted. They utilize the existing parking lot vehicle access point and meet the requirements of the zoning code. So staff recommends the approval of the proposed site plan at 1215 Campbell Street. Apologies for the Cleveland Road typo on the slide there, but we recommend the approval of the proposed 1215 Campbell Street with the following conditions. Let me make sure I'm right. Look at the staff report instead. That all applicable permits are obtained through the building department, engineering department, division of planning, and then the other applicable agency prior to construction. That the parking area light fixture is installed as directed in the staff report. I'll mention that I didn't say this previously, the light fixture that they presented is appropriate as long as it's installed horizontal to the ground, and that's in the staff report. And that any additional exterior light fixtures are dark sky compliant and meeting the standards set by City Ordinance 24-161.
Thank you, Ms. Blair. I see Mr. Pickens is in attendance. Is there anything you would like to add to Ms. Blair's report?
No, nothing I feel necessary, unless you want me to answer something for you.
Okay, we'll see if any of the people around the table have any questions for you. So I'll return to the table for discussion. Mr. Miller.
I have a question, and it's not really relevant to this request, but I was asked, how many units in the school? Do we know that? And is that like
18 units.
18? That's really my only question.
Any further discussion on this particular application?
I just have one little small question.
Mr. Jackson?
Are both plots under the same ownership?
No.
Okay, so the apartments where the schools presently sits is under one, and the school, the real school that you're going to be using, the school is going to be under another ownership, right?
Yeah, Nehemiah retained the 1215, and the school is now under Campbell office.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Mr. Pickens, I've got a question. I'm wondering, could you step up here and just state your name and address? I want to make sure Ms. Rambo gets that for the minutes. I'm just curious as to your progress on this particular project.
So I am Glenn Pickens. I'm here representing 1215 Campbell. We're progressing well. Building should expect to see a set of plans this Friday. Other than that demo, everything on the interior is progressing.
Yeah, I live over that way, and I've gone by, and I see that there's some activity going on, so it's nice to see something going on with that building.
We're moving along well.
Good, good. Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Pickens? If not, I'll call for a vote.
Make a motion.
Motion?
Motion, yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Oh, wait, no, you got,
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the application be approved as recommended by the staff with, subject to those conditions as set forth in their recommendation.
It's been moved by Mr. McGorry. Is there a second?
second.
Mr. Zuloff seconds. I guess now I can call for the vote.
David Miller,
Yes.
Steve Pajali,
Yes.
Pete McGorry,
Yes.
Connor Whalen,
Yes.
Mike Zuloff,
Yes.
Jim Jackson.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Pickens.
Thank you. Good seeing everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item, 2227 Cleveland Road, the Explorer Inn.
Mr. Chairman, this is a similar main use proposal, so you're going to see this similar main use case first, and then you'll see a site plan after this if the similar main use passes. This is for the Explorer Rest and Recreation at 2227 Cleveland Road, parcel 57-02305.000. This was proposed to add, hold on, let me go back to the zoning, pardon me. The zoning is general business. To the north is RMF Residential Multifamily, east GB General Business, and RMF Residential Multifamily, south General Business, and west General Business. The existing use is motel, and the proposed use is to expand that motel use into 4, what they're calling cabins, but they are RV classified cabins. So in order for that to be possible, we need to evaluate those with the determination of similar main uses. You can see the street view here and that Explorer motel that they renovated. This is the proposed unit type that they are wanting to place on the site. There's 4 of them in total. The similar main use approval asks for exactly that number. The site plan will show that if we get to that agenda item. This is a 2.3 acre site. The building coverage is low, it's 13.9%. They want to add a new type of unit option for their customers, creating 4 new rooms, and by installing these cabins on the site, they're proposed to stay on the site all year long and have permanent connection to utilities, which we'll see in the site plan. The current zoning does not specifically permit RV classified unit rentals in this district. Transient occupancy and motels are permitted, and the applicant is seeking a similar main use permit to operate these on the site. This is in the East District of the Comprehensive Plan, which specifies redeveloping vacant land and parcels along Cleveland Road to improve the experience and entry into the city, and adding placemaking elements along that Cleveland Road corridor to welcome visitors to the city. If you recall, the evaluation of a similar main use asks actionable than the existing uses that are allowed in the district. That does not create additional traffic than any use that's already allowed in the district. And in addition, we can add appropriate safeguards if we deem them needed. And the Planning Commission may revoke a similar main use permit if the property is not maintained in the manner that would conform to the required standards. Staff's analysis is that the proposed units would fit the brand and the operation of the Explorer Motel, and if they're maintained and landscaped to the same quality as the existing motel, are expected to make a vibrant addition to the site. Staff considers the determination of similar uses according to section 1109.11 to be met. An applicant would need to require an occupancy permit through the building department and also site plan approval from the Planning Commission in order to add these proposed units to the site. Other departments did not have objections or comments about this use, and The staff recommends the approval of the proposed similar main use at 2227 Cleveland Road with the following conditions. The applicable permits are obtained through the Building Department, Engineering Department, Division of Planning, and any other applicable agency at the appropriate time in the construction and operations of the project, and the approval of the similar main use permit is contingent on the site plan approval.
Thank you, Ms. Blair. Is the applicant here? Is there anything you'd like to add to Ms. Blair's report? State your name and...
Yeah, it's Joshua Fox, architect, 1717 East Perkins Ave. I'm the owner's representative. They're not able to make it at this time, but I have no further comments unless you guys have questions. Happy to answer.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Zuloff.
for the staff, it's not clear to me why we need the application, but I think it will become more clear. Is the permitted occupancy in these units any different than a motel room?
The occupancy would be determined by their occupancy permit as far as the number of humans that are allowed to stay in it. I would expect that they would be similar to a motel room, and they've done this before.
I'm asking about the term of.
Oh, the term, they'll be operated the same. That is stated in their application that they would be
Right,
limited
so
to
under.
no longer than 30 days, I think,
Right.
same as motel room.
So under this
Yes.
zoning, like a motel, no longer than, what is it, 30
30
days?
days. Yes,
Right,
it would be the
okay,
same.
So no different. Okay, that's what I was trying to clarify. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. McGorry.
I don't know if I missed something in the paperwork, but are these units planned to be in what I would call the front of the motel or the rear yard?
They're facing Cleveland Road. So they're there's a landscape area in the front of that already. They're kind of a triangular shape. And they're going to go set right into that space. So they will be setting parallel with Cleveland Road.
Okay, so essentially in the front of the existing motel?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I would add a comment that this is to evaluate whether the use itself is appropriate, and then their site plan will determine the location.
Yeah.
Right, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Zuloff.
For the applicant, to clarify, will these units remain portable, or are they?
Yeah, they will
Are they going
remain.
to be plumbed, or are they going to pump them out, or, how are you plumbing them, and how are you managing wastewater?
So two questions. Yes, they are portable. They do have wheels. They have a frame. They have a trailer hitch on them. That would remain. Without their trailer hitch, of course, that would come off. So they are mobile, always be mobile. We will connect the plumbing and the electric. It will be hard piped to the units. It'll have an electrical pedestal feeding it, and it'll have a PVC sanitary and water.
Right, okay, that's kind of what I expected, but
Yep.
just to clarify, and I know that we're talking about the use here, but I'm trying to clarify the use.
Mr. Miller.
Maybe educate me about the advantage of leaving the wheels not only on, but visible. Why not skirt it so that,
It will be skirted. It has a skirt system that goes around the perimeter of it, but the wheels, kind of like a modular home or something, has the wheels,
Yeah.
axles and stuff. It will have a skirt completely around it. You would not see that. It would not look like a modular unit when it's sitting there.
that's important to me?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's,
It'll look like a cabin, built-in permanent cabin is what it'll actually look like.
Mr. Chairman, oh,
through you,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman, to follow, and this is
Mr.
not
Miller.
a separate question. What does a unit like this cost? Apparently, they're commercially available. You've got the spec for it. I mean,
I am not aware of the cost of it. That was handled by the owner.
you can't afford it, Dave.
well, I know a lot of people are talking about small houses, and this, like a pre-manufactured one, we've talked here about being maybe an efficient way to go for small affordable housing in a number of our infills around the city.
We can obtain the cost for it, get a budget cost, absolutely, to share with you. That's not an issue.
Mr.
I
Chairman,
just don't have it.
you can
Mr. Zuloff.
You can probably find the cost on the internet. Just putting my tongue-in-cheek here, I'm fine with the wheels. I kind of like the kind of the look of campground, kind of looks like a faux,
Sure.
RV that you're staying in on a campground, especially very artful with the fire ring and everything else. So, but I can see the concerns of long-term, like not having animals move in under the unit. Since it doesn't move,
Correct.
you have to worry about things like that.
Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Mr. Jackson.
Is that motel, is it open in the wintertime?
It is. It's year-round.
So these units will be year-round?
To the best of my knowledge, he's wanting to use them year-round, yeah. So that's where the question with the plumbing came in. It's going to have heat tapes and everything on it to comply for freezing capabilities, yeah.
Yeah, I'm an RVer, so I know what
Yeah.
the problems you run into
Yeah.
in the wintertime.
Yeah, these are very essentially the same as the ones that's on First Street. There's an RV park on First Street. They're very similar to that. In fact, they're hooked up almost exactly the same as to what's on the campground there.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. McGorry?
That was my exact question
Okay.
about the winter,
Year-round.
and with cold weather we've just had, but he just answered it with heat tape, so.
Okay.
And if they have issues or something, they may shut them down for winter if they have issues or they're not renting out enough during the winter. They may winterize them if they're not running in full capacity. But I believe they're going to try to run some events, especially with the events going around town.
Well, skirting really helps with that.
And I had one more question.
For sure.
I didn't get a chance to.
Mr. Zuloff?
Yeah, square footage, I'm sorry if I missed that, but and it's kind of hard to read the specs here.
I'm not
Approximate square footage.
I'm not 100% sure on the size of it. I didn't print the cut sheet for it at the meeting, but they're probably in the 200 square foot range would be my guess.
Yeah, well, the reason I ask, of course, is because it's very popular to promote tiny homes these days, and frankly, I think it's not appropriate to live in too tiny of a space for a long period of time. It's fine, in my opinion, for short periods of time, but it's a little inhumane and starts looking less like charming tiny homes and more like substandard housing when you make it a permanent solution. Speech concluded.
Thank you for the editorial comment, Mr. Zuloff. I'll return to the table, call for a vote.
Mr. Guy has two people.
Call for a motion.
A motion, is there a motion to approve?
Come on, Connor, make a motion.
I move we approve the application subject to the conditions. Staff.
It's been moved, is there a second? It's been moved and second.
I'll second it.
No,
Oh,
Mr. Zuloff beat you to the punch.
he seconded?
Yeah.
I couldn't wait.
Any further discussion? If not, now I'll call for the vote.
Jim Jackson,
Yes.
Pete McGorry,
yes.
David Miller,
Yes.
Steve Pajali,
Yes,
Connor Whalen,
Yes.
Mike Zuloff.
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. 2227 Cleveland Road, the Explorer Part 2.
For 6 months.
Don't go away.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the property we've been talking about, and since the similar main use has been determined appropriate, we can review the site plan. You'll notice on this diagram, we are also discussing the parcel to the east that's 2279 in the site plan application, in addition to what we've been discussing at the table. Get us to the photo here. So the picture on the right is a street view of an existing structure. So in addition to the 4 cabins they want to add, they also are planning to renovate this existing structure. It was a small retail structure. They want to add 2 additional units into that building as part of their operations. So we've seen the cabins, and the site plan. So you'll notice in the yellow, the 4 cabins that are proposed in the site, and in the orange, there's the proposed repurpose of the commercial structure. The commercial structure has its own entry and parking, so the parking is sufficient. The parking on the site is plenty for adding the 4 cabins. They're still over their requirements for parking. And you'll notice the line drawing here, it kind of looks like W's. Those are really robust landscaping areas that exist on the site now. So the structures will have a nice surroundings of landscaping as proposed. Let me see if I missed anything. So their total lot coverage now is 13.9%. And so this will, and the other one is 7.1%. So they have plenty of room in the lot coverage requirements for the proposed units. All units will operate in the same manner as the existing Explorer units operate as part of their motel operations. So they'll have 33 existing rooms, 4 proposed cabins, and up to 2 in the existing building. That gives them, and 50 parking spaces, so the parking requirements are met, as I mentioned. And we did have some comments with engineering staff that have been addressed. So they ask a lot of questions about how the utilities will come in. The cabins will be hooked to the sanitary sewer and water city utilities. And also that the Cleveland Road entry may need to be adjusted as part of the upcoming Cleveland Road project, and that the city engineer would direct that at that time. It would be at the city's expense if they're going to force any changes, but they wanted the owners to be aware. So given those, staff recommends the approval of the proposed site plan at 2227 and 2279 Cleveland Road, parcels 57-02305 and 57-02306, with the following conditions: that all applicable permits must be obtained through the Building Department, Engineering Department, Division of Planning, and any other applicable agency at the appropriate time in the construction and operations of the project. The owner is responsive to engineering staff to enable any changes to the curb cuts or entry approach as directed and along the timeline specified by Cleveland Road Construction Project, and that all applicable city code standards are followed in the management and upkeep of the property. And I would like to add, if I may, a number 4, which would be that if there's any exterior lighting, they are dark sky compliant and meet the standards set by city ordinance 24-161. We did not review if there would be any exterior lighting as part of the site plan application. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blair.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Zumwalt.
regarding parking, it looks like we're just meeting the standards here for this use, right? For a number of parking spots. What's your opinion on whether we're overshooting the mark or whether we have more than we really need? And does the applicant understand that they can ask us to approve fewer spots if the prescribed number is in excess of what they think is necessary?
Thanks for that question. I would say it's not like largely overparked. They have 39 rooms and 50 spaces, which generally it's one space per room. So they have about 10 extra. They're not planning to make any changes, so it wouldn't save them any money if we reduce that requirement for them because they're not planning to make changes to the parking.
Well, I wasn't thinking as much of, who cares about their money? I care about the environment. No, just kidding. I was interested in making sure, like we are wont to do over the last 20-some years, almost 25 years now, to make it clear that we're worried about stormwater and, not burdening our already overburdened stormwater infrastructure. So as long as we're doing the best we can as far as unnecessary pavement, I'm sure at least Mr. Miller will agree that that's a priority. Thank you.
Any other, Mr. McGorry?
Chairman, just a question. Is what I will call the front door of these, what I'll call cabins, and they're labeled cabins, is the front door going to face Cleveland Road, or is it going to face interior to the parking lot?
There's a couple different ways that we can order these units. I don't believe they've been ordered yet, so we can face them towards the existing motel is probably my thoughts, but it's kind of tongue-in-cheek because if you look at the site plan, it's kind of those W shapes, all the landscapes on the Cleveland Road side, so that makes a perfect spot for a fire pit and seating area.
I just didn't know if the owners had a preference yet.
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. And, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. McGory.
I don't know if these would be considered manufactured homes, but at our last meeting, we were talking about requiring a front door facing the road. And I'm not sure that would be appropriate for this, but that's just an example of how we need to think things through totally. So.
And are you saying that would be your preference?
No, I mean, I can see both, what the representative just said.
Yeah.
I can see the logic of having the, in quotes, front door face the parking lot. I can also see the logic of having the front door face the like a congregating area with landscaping and fire pits. So I don't personally have a preference. I mean, the theory of what we discussed previously was if the front door faces the parking lot, the road is going to have a view of the back of the thing. And I don't know that that's bad. It's really how it's presented, how it's landscaped, how it's finished off.
Yeah.
So
I guess I thought maybe they might want to have the door facing Cleveland Road where, the fire pit and everything is, where the action is, right?
Well, the other argument is that that's a lot of traffic going down Cleveland Road, and so I guess what I'm saying is, my point is, it's kind of up to them.
Okay.
The owner has to decide which is better. Going back to our conversation from the last meeting, I think it's more how the facade that faces the road is finished off and landscaped and things like that.
Right.
Rather than having a front door or not.
Right. And who's to say, maybe the action's on the other side, so.
So I don't have a preference in this case,
Yeah.
which way they face it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
And it's on wheels, so it could be turned around.
I think Mr. Miller might have a question before I get to Mr. Zula.
Yeah, I do have a question, and again, not particularly relevant, but when I drove by there, I noticed that the vacant land behind the motel seems like a lot of space if we're trying to put as many rentable units in there as possible. Is there thought that if this works, that you could fit some more behind and all that backyard, or?
That is a possibility at the moment. The reason for it being out front is we already have all the utilities there, the sanitary, the power. We got power pedestals already there from the previous renovations. So that's an easy fix for us at this stage, and to try to get them going in that process. In regards to the back, I'm not 100% sure, but it could be a possibility in the future if utilities could get to that location. There was a playground and a huge swimming pool and stuff at that location that's been removed since. But I wouldn't want to cap them off in the future for sure.
Okay.
Well, and that leads me to a second
Mr. Miller?
question. I'm just curious about the utilities. Are the utilities run back to a central trunk line that serves the motel, or do they have to pay an individual tap fee for each of these additional units like they were separate units? Or is it all under the tap fee of the hotel and motel and so forth?
Yeah, it would be all tapped off of the existing service line coming off of the existing main.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why it's to the front, to your first question. If it was to go to the back, we're not sure if our inverts and stuff would get us to that location for that part. But anything we would do from this point back would be on the private connection point already. We would not have to do any additional taps or anything.
That's point of curiosity. Thank you.
Yep.
Mr.
So-
Zula?
Along the same line, and it's all connected. My first glimpse, I said, oh, these are going out back. I really expected them to go out back and, kind of like a campground off the beaten path. But I think you probably have the best answer of why it's out front, the cost of setting it up. But if I was a guest, I'd rather be out back. But, if you need a place, you need a place. But if there's one thing that is relevant to a site plan approval, it's where the egress is. And I am interested in, I think a proper site plan should show how these are oriented. I am curious, is the entrance facing the road or facing the parking lot?
I can mention in conversations with the owner, her original expectation is that the doors would face inward, and I encouraged her to think about, we generally don't want to look at the backs of buildings along our roadways, how that's landscaped. I think that led to one of the reasons why they chose the unit that has the big glass window on the one side, so it would be a little bit more interesting if, in fact, the doors point inward. So it was my understanding that they were pointing inward to the site, but after consideration, it sounds like Mr. Fox says they haven't quite decided. So that could be something that the Planning Commission could give them guidance on if you have a preference.
Okay, so.
And there's a
we
lot
know,
of landscaping
what the-
on site.
We know as far as we know, the initial plan was to have them facing inward. I'm not terribly concerned with this. You can make it look terrible pointing the door in the favored direction, and you can make it look great aesthetically, even if it happens to be the back of the trailer. It's going to have windows and stuff anyway. So I'm really not concerned about the aesthetics. I am, but it is appropriate for us to know what we're getting.
I think
That was the main point.
I think
I'm fine with them going inward, so.
I mean, this is my comment. I just think that, the picture that they have in the diagram is probably what you would see from Cleveland Road with the door facing Cleveland Road. But it's a unique thing because it's finished on all sides, so there's no really back or front to it. It's just the door, right? So the only thing would be the door, and I think the owners would have no issues on coordinating a direction. I think it's more for travel and functionality of going to the fire pit and going to the picnic table, and the kids are playing and different things like that. I think functionality is more driven for us.
Mr. McGorry?
No, I was ready to make a motion unless there's further questions.
Well, just quickly, I don't care if it faces the parking lot. If I was renting one of these units, how far I have to schlep, how many trips is a big consideration for me.
Yeah.
And that's fine to minimize the steps for how many trips I'd make and then take that times how many people over the years. Save a lot of mileage facing the parking lot like every other motel unit there.
Okay, Mr. Miller.
May I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Aaron, does this include the red building still correct? So the questions were, I just want to make sure we cover everything. The questions were just for the cabins itself. Was there any questions on the red box that's in the existing building is what I'm referring to?
Does that face the parking to the main entrance to that existing building, or does that the original orientation of the existing building toward Cleveland Road with a prominent front entrance?
Oh, so the red shaded box in that site plan that you see there is an existing building. It's a merchant store currently. The front elevation will stay with windows on it, as you've seen in the previous pictures. We will be adding 2 doors on the west side facing the hotel area and the cabin area for these 2 new units is all. And in regards to the question that you had about parking, we're over parked on that lot right now. We probably only need 4 or 5 lot spaces on that corner lot. So that's an area where we could do landscaping and get some more drainage and perforated areas in there. I just kind of wanted to point that out.
Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared to make a motion to approve the application as submitted, subject to staff recommendations and with the further condition in the motion, that leave it up to the property owners to determine which way the portable cabins face their, in quotes, front door.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? I've just got one comment relative to the green space to the rear of this property.
Yes, sir.
There are some multifamily units back right behind there, and I just sometimes, I don't know if you put too many of these back there, how compatible that'll be with the multifamily units that are currently back there, because I think their decks would face that green space, so just a
Yes,
comment.
and also keep in mind, there's going to be that future bike path that actually goes between that multi-family housing and our green area. That bike path continues through there. So they're going to be cut through with a public way, if you will.
And I guess if we get to that point, we can have the discussion then.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yep, thank you.
Ms. Rambo, would you call for the vote?
Mike Zuloff,
Yes.
Jim Jackson,
Yes.
Connor Whalen,
Yes.
Pete McGorry,
Yes,
Steve Pajali,
Yes,
David Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
thank you. Mr. McGorry.
That motion seconded?
I had that Mike Zuloff seconded.
Mr. Zuloff.
He said it real quick.
Okay.
Kind of.
I heard it.
All right,
Yeah, I heard it.
okay.
Okay, on to the Mingus Meadows subdivision.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Pretty good hedgerow back there.
This is the final plat review for parcels 60.002610000. I mentioned it's a subdivision of that parcel, and we reviewed the preliminary in September. This was proposed by Eric and April Mingus. The zoning was moved forward through Planning Commission with a public hearing, recommended to City Commission. The City Commission held a public hearing in November, and the legislation of that zoning will be brought forward with the developers agreement to City Commission on March 10th of 2025. And in that case, the parcel in question will be zoned R175 residential, single-family residential. It's currently zoned public facilities, and as I described, it's surrounded by R175 single-family residential to the west, general manufacturing to the east, and public facilities to the north and the south. The existing use is agriculture. The proposed use is 3 residential parcels. Some photos of the existing conditions of this site. It's just east of the Cold Creek subdivision. The final plat is identical to the preliminary plat. It just has more detail, so the shape, size, and location of the parcels have not changed. You can see the 3 lots that are proposed. Lot 2 is where they want to build first, and they'll be extending Ferndale Drive in order to be able to access that parcel. So Lot 1 becomes developable with that extension of Ferndale Drive, and then when they are ready to build on Lot 3, they'll need to further extend Ferndale Drive in order to access that parcel. The final plat just includes these 3 parcels and the extension of Ferndale Drive. This is the construction documentation, the civil engineering plans for that extension that have been closely developed with our engineering team. This is in the west district of the comprehensive plan, which asks us to look for strategic infill opportunities for housing on vacant lots. And the final plat does include all required components of the major subdivision. That includes the improvement plans, which are the detailed construction documentation, and all agreements and guarantees. There is a developer agreement that will be a contractual agreement to show exactly what will take place with the construction of the Ferndale Drive extension that will be on the City Commission agenda for March 10th, 2025. No changes in the plat have been made since the approval of the preliminary plat. It's only added further detail that is required by our ordinance for final approval. So staff recommends the approval of the proposed final plat for this major subdivision at parcel 6000261 with the following conditions: that all applicable permits must be obtained through the building department, engineering department, division of planning, and any other applicable agency prior to construction, and that the construction agreement is executed, including city commission approval to sign it prior to the commencement of any construction.
Thank you, Ms. Blair. Mr. Mangus, is there anything that you would like to add to this report?
Hi, Aaron Mingus, 404 High Street, Sandusky. No, I don't, it's the same as it was before, preliminary, just final. A few more steps, so
Yeah.
ready to go.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Mangus?
Through you, Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Jackson?
What is the front footage on Lot 1?
100 feet,
It's 100 feet?
Yeah.
That's the lot you're going to be building your personal home on?
second lot,
You're going to be building your personal home on the second lot?
on the second one. Yeah.
So this Lot 1 is going to be a spec home?
Lot, actually, it's we bought the property because we built my son a house, and then we bought it because then I got 2 other sons. So really, the 3 lots I have are for us, and then our 2 sons, the other 2 we got, and then we're going to sell the north, and then probably sell the south on each side of this. The north is accessible from Venice, and then the south,
But the first lot you're going to be building on is Lot 1? Is that what you're saying?
lot 2.
Lot 2?
Yeah,
Okay. And that's your home, personal?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You put 2 kids together, you got to spread them out and get in the middle, so.
Mr. Chairman.
Other questions, Mr. Zuloff?
Well, I imagine if plans change a little bit, it's not going to be any big deal, right? I mean, it is, I even ask I ask myself, why, if we really needed to get all the way into subdivision and everything else to build the one house, I ask myself, could it have been done later? But if everyone's happy, I guess, if it's going to happen eventually anyway, it's fine. And I imagine we'll find a way to adapt if the owner's plans change a little, right?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, let's say the owner changes their mind about where they want to, it might be irrelevant, and I'm not even going to ask them, I'm just hypothetically, because this stuff goes on all the time, but in this particular case, it might not be relevant, but in principle, well, this application is not based on a specific site plan or a specific building plan. It's based on, is this appropriate for the land, right?
The final plat review is, does the final plat meet all the requirements per the code?
Right.
The preliminary plat was already approved, so I don't think that changes to that would be appropriate at this point. It's just, did they comply with all of the final plat improvements, which is a bond, the guarantees for the property, a developer agreement, and the civil engineering plan. So the final plat documents these 3 parcels in record with the county, so it will create these 3 parcels and documents the civil engineering plans for the extension of Ferndale Drive in order to access them.
Absolutely, I understand.
And Ms. Blair, did you, correct me if I'm wrong, but relative to the major subdivision, did you say because the road's involved, that's why
Yes.
we're going the major
Yes,
subdivision?
because Ferndale Drive ends at a point where there's not access to this property where they wanted to build, even to Lot 1, because it doesn't connect. So the extension of Ferndale Drive in order to access the land is why the major subdivision process was required.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr.
Mr.
Mangus?
Just,
Mr. McGorry?
Through you to staff, so is the extension of Ferndale Drive, is that on land owned by the city, or is that an easement that the city has over?
It is public right-of-way, which they will construct.
Okay.
And the engineering is going to inspect and test. And once it's constructed, then the city will adopt it as public infrastructure. So they're actually extending the water main, they're extending the public utilities
Okay.
and the public roadway in order to make this land developable.
Okay.
And
Surface too, the
the curbs, the sidewalk, yes, and that's all specified in the civil engineering drawings, and then it's documented in the developer agreement that city commission will give authority to sign.
Okay,
So it's
thank you.
all very specific, and you'll notice in the report, there's like 2.5 pages of subdivision requirements. They have done an incredible amount of work to get this to be developable so they can build a home on this land.
Thank you.
For my own knowledge, for staff, if they'd have kept this all one lot, would they have only needed to extend the road far enough to get to the first lot then?
That was something that we discussed, was if they built on the first lot, the road extension could have been shorter. They wanted to have their home in the center. Staff was not willing to support a proposal for a 3-acre single-family parcel, so we worked together. We originally were trying to convince them to build 6 lots instead of 3, and they came back and asked for 3, which
So
we
you
thought
worked
was
with whom?
appropriate.
Worked with whom for 6 lots?
The owners. We were looking at the context of the area and whether it would be appropriate, because we have such a housing shortage.
So the applicant could have disagreed with the staff and brought their
that forward,
application
yes.
to the planning commission.
Yes, and we worked with them step by step
Right.
through the
And
process.
that was kind of the point I was trying to get to, is that, is the expense, and I even wonder if a 66-foot, right-of-way is appropriate for what's going to be, what may prove to be forever a dead end. So I'm just seeing how it played out is it could prove over the course of time to have been a kind of more expense infrastructure and than was necessary, but we might be wrong. It might be that street goes on, and anyway, I would have preferred to burn that bridge when we got to it instead of being proactive for something that might take 100 years to happen.
That, Mr. Mingus, that's a good segue. What's your time frame on this?
I put 2 years in for the road, so I got a 2-year window to get it done.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion, comments? If not, is there a motion?
Because our original was, we wanted to kind of extend and then maybe take a private drive off or something just to get away. Because my mind was same as yours, like, just us to build our home. My other sons are, one's still 17, one's 10. Like, the timing for me, you know what I mean? But to be able to split it into 3 eventually for them, I'd have to extend the road regardless. Because my first thought was for the one house, what can I do temporarily for, till 10 years from now or whatever, just to access it, to be able to use it. So, but this is where we ended up, so.
Right.
Well, the good news is you'll have a highly marketable property.
Yeah, it gives the
whatever.
south access and
Yeah.
done, so.
Mr. Jackson?
I make a motion that we approve the applicant.
It's been moved and
Second.
Second's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Ms. Ramble?
Pete McGorry,
Yes.
Connor Whalen,
Yes.
Steve Pajali,
Yes.
David Miller,
Yes.
Mike Zuloff,
Yes.
Jim Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. So before we adjourn, I guess I'll beat Mr. Zuloff to the punch. Is there any updates?
My update is that I managed without an assistant planner for a couple weeks and got you these reports, and we interviewed and hired an assistant planner, so we should be up and running a little more
Are there more
efficiently.
staff, are there more staff changes to tell us about besides our new?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so I don't have any other updates for you, except I got it through the gap.
Okay, well, thank you for that, and you did a stellar job acting in both capacities. So, if that's all we have, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. I've been moved and seconded.
By all means.